A marvelous day to all of you. I am Dali Stephanie A. Jumento, a BS and English student of Negros Oriental State University, Shatin Campus. Today, I will discuss a specific subfield from each of the subcategories of linguistics, namely pragmatics and stylistics linguistics. But before that, let us first know our objectives. At the end of the report, students should be able to explain pragmatics and stylistics linguistics, identify their significance, lastly, reflect and apply the use of pragmatics and stylistics in daily life. Linguistics is the study of languages from a scientific perspective, not languages themselves. It is composed of two broad categories, which are microlinguistics and macrolinguistics. In microlinguistics, language is reduced to the abstract conceptual elements of syntax and phonology. It includes phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. It differs from macrolinguistics, which encompasses meanings. Some subcategories of macrolinguistics are sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics, and stylistics. Let us now proceed with our main topics. Sometimes, we don't exactly say what we mean and yet we still manage to understand each other. For example, your mother asks, "Can you close the door?" You'll probably interpret the question as a polite request rather than a question about your physical ability. The reason why we can figure out what's going on is because we don't just look on words and sentences for meaning. We also look context. Pragmatist is the study of the practical aspects of human action and thought. It is also the study of the use of linguistic signs, words, and sentences in actual situations. In other words, the area of linguistics that puts meaning into interactional context is called pragmatics. It looks beyond the literal meaning of an utterance and considers how meaning is constructed as well as focusing on implied meanings. It considers language as an instrument of interaction, what people mean when they use language, and how we communicate and understand each other. The definition of pragmatics and the use of pragmatics can be tricky to grasp without studying examples. Here are some examples that can help illustrate pragmatics in use in everyday conversation and how life would be without pragmatics. First example, if you eat all that food, it will make you bigger. Semantically, bigger in this sentence would mean larger than you are currently. Think about how this sentence pragmatically would mean something different depending on the context. If it is said to a young child, pragmatically, it would mean to grow bigger. If it is said to a grown person who is already obese, it would mean something entirely different. Another example is, "Will you crack open the door? I am getting hot." Semantically, the word crack would mean to break, but pragmatically, we know that the speaker means to open the door just a little to let in some air. Pragmatics involves many concepts, including these major areas: conversational, implicature, cognitive pragmatics, intercultural pragmatics, managing the flow of reference, relevance theory, sociolinguistics, speech acts, and theory of the mind. People often associate pragmatics with other areas of linguistic study, such as semantics, syntax, and semiotics, but these terms have different definitions. Semantics is the study of rule systems that determine the literal linguistic meanings of expressions. Syntax describes how we combine words to form sentences with specific meaning. And semiotics is concerned with the use and interpretation of signs and symbols. In contrast to semantics, syntax in semiotics, the study of pragmatics revolves around both the literal and non-literal aspects of language and how physical or social contexts determine the use of those linguistic expressions. Pragmatics acts as the basis for all language interactions and contact. It is a key feature to the understanding of language and the responses that follow this. Therefore, without the function of pragmatics, there would be very little understanding of intention and meaning. Now that you have learned what is pragmatics, we will now discuss stylistics linguistics. Stylistics is a branch of applied linguistics. It is the study and interpretation of texts of all types and spoken language in regard to their linguistic and tonal style, where style is the particular variety of language used by different individuals and in different situations or settings. For example, the vernacular or everyday language may be used among casual friends, whereas more formal language, with respect to grammar, pronunciation or accent, and lexicon or choice of words, it is often used in a cover letter and resume and while speaking during a job interview. Another example is the language of advertising, politics, religion, individual authors, and etc., or the language of a period in time. All are used distinctively and belong in a particular situation. In other words, they all have a place or are said to use a particular style. There are several types of stylistics. 1. Literary stylistics is the study of forms such as poetry, drama, and prose. Second is the interpretive stylistics. It is how the linguistic elements work to create meaningful art. Third, evaluative stylistics. It is how an author's style works or doesn't in the work. Corpus stylistics. It is the study of the frequency of various elements in a text, such as to determine the authenticity of a manuscript. Discourse stylistics is how language in use creates meaning, such as studying parallelism, assonance, alliteration, and rhyme. Stylistics uses many key terms and devices in its analysis of text. However, we will be dealing with the most important ones used in the stylistic analysis. They are, number 1, alliteration. Alliteration means the repetition of the same consonant sounds in close words. Alliteration is widely used in poetry, newspaper headlines, and advertising. Examples: a lazy lying lion. Peter picked a peck of pickled peppers. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Second, metaphor. It compares two different things that have some characteristics in common. Examples are, you are a pig, love is clockworks, and cold steel. Third, hyperbole. It is the exaggeration of the statement. Some examples are, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. I'm so hungry that I could eat a horse now. Stylistics examines the creativity in the use of language. It enhances the way we think about language and its uses. Thus, the stylistic process examining the creativity of language use develops our understanding of literature, according to Sampson in 2004. The purpose of stylistics is to connect linguistic analysis with literary criticism. This can be done by expanding the literary intuitiveness of linguists and by expanding the linguistic observation and knowledge of critics. Stylistics is arguing for the universality of language usage, while close reading hinges upon an observation of how this particular style and usage may vary from and thereby make an error relating to the norm. Stylistics, then, is the pursuit of understanding key elements of style that affect a given audience interpretation of a text. Thank you for listening and watching. I hope you learned something about my lecture video. Goodbye!